rather emotional, and it didn't do me very good to speak about it, so I preferred not to. I did not altogether shut it out, but I tried not to speak about it.
We're just going to take a break and change tapes. Interview with Rabbi Michael Mandel. This is tape 12. Rabbi, have you visited your hometown of Shimleul since the war?
Yes. In 1976, I went back the first time.
Why?
I wanted to go before that, but straight after the war, I didn't dare to go back. I was too afraid that I might even kill somebody, those who were guilty of the atrocities against my family.
Did you know who they were?
I knew vaguely, yes. And I was afraid of myself that I might do something like that.
Were these local people?
Yes, local people, yes.
How did you know that they committed atrocities against your family?
I heard of them from my hometown people when I met them in Budapest and in Israel, and so I knew.
So why in 1976?
By 1976, because by that time I was no longer military age. You see, the Australian authorities cautioned me and advised me against going there, seeing that I was military age, and anywhere else they would guarantee my safety and freedom. But in the land of my birth, they said that sometimes they do that thing that they say, we don't care that you are a citizen, you first serve the army. And
how long
anyway,
did you stay in Shimleul?
One day.
How was that?
The first time I went there by train from Budapest. I went by train to Oradea, to Shimleul. What's it? Wait a minute. Am I saying it right or not? In 76, no. In 76 I flew there from London.
How was that as an experience for you to go back to your hometown after
Very
30
traumatic
years?
because everything was in ruins. There was nothing there, virtually nothing. I mean, that synagogue was still standing. The rabbi's quarters, there lived the last caretaker's non-Jewish wife, was a very fine person, but she slept in the rabbi's bed. The rabbi was already taken away in 1944, and that was in 1976. Daily she went to her late husband's grave, and she was very nice, but she couldn't do very much. I did enter the synagogue, and especially the foyer of the synagogue, called the Polish, where there were stacks of Talmud volumes on the floor and all over the place. The synagogue itself, the chandeliers were down on top of the reader's desk, and all the droppings, bird droppings, because every single window was broken. It was the cover for the reader's desk was the same as before my father left the place. And it was horrible. I found some of the books from which my father learned, because he had his office not very far from there. He went there daily and he was doing private study, you know, studying on his own.
Did you visit your family home?
Yes, I did.
What did you find?
In 76, by 76, the family home was partly pulled down by the council. Actually, the previous year in October, I understand they carried away the debris, etc., from the building. And that was in the left wing of the home, as you face it. It was a two-winged home with a huge gate entering the courtyard. And I went to see the little room where we were all born, and it was still intact. It was still intact. We had a brass bed, but that was not there anymore. Maybe it was too good and somebody came.
Was anybody living in that home?
Oh yes, yes. Some people were living, and I had to assure them, because they were absolutely terrified that I might want something of them. I assured them, I want nothing from you. I went in to the other wing of the place, the new wing of the home, and there was a teacher who was a Romanian government school teacher. And he spoke very well Hungarian, but didn't dare to, because the Hungarians and Romanians hated one another very much to this day.
Rabbi, you were 4 years old when your mother passed away. You only knew your father until 1943. That was the last time you saw him, that you were 11. So you only knew your parents for a very short time of your life.
Not 11, but you say 11.
You were 11
No.
in 1943. Sorry, 15.
That's right.
You knew your parents, both your parents, for a very short time of your life. What influence did that brief time have on you for the rest of your life?
They were very loving parents. There was nothing that they would not do for their offsprings. They showed a very wonderful way, loyalty and love and affection, and thinking only of the welfare of the kids, and give them assurance and give them self-respect. These were the things that they taught us, and of course they encouraged learning. Both of them were well-educated, well-read, speaking several languages. Countless books in the place, always encouraging us to learn and to excel in learning, in fact.
Did that, the way that they, what you just talked about, the way they influenced you, did that influence the way that you brought up your own two sons?
Something very similar, yes. I did see to it that they get the best education available at the time, what I could afford. I bought them all the books necessary and gave them to the best school that there was. If I didn't pick them up or didn't take them to school, my wife did. Barbara did. She was a wonderful mother. Very, very solicitous on behalf of her children. As a wife, she was not so, but I loved her very much. And after 21 years, we divorced. And after 13 years, I remarried. I remarried the widow of a friend of mine, Dr. Bill Burns from Sydney. Her name was Pauline Estelle Burns. Her maiden name was Glasser. And we knew each other for many years. But what happened was that in 1966 I accepted the position of Rabbi or minister of the Coogee Randwicklow Valley Hebrew congregation. At that time it was Bill who came as a treasurer at the time. He came with his president to Stratfield and asked me would I be interested in the job at Coogee. And eventually I left Stratfield for the reason that I think I mentioned earlier. I could not look after David as much as I would have liked to. So I wanted to move away from there and got a job at Coogee by being invited to do that job. I was there for 1 year only because subsequently I was went to the Great Synagogue from January of 1967 to February 1977. 1970.
Rabbi, I was asking you about your marriage, and you said that you married your second wife, Pauline.
That's right. I married her here in Melbourne at the Melbourne Hebrew congregation. Rabbi Dr. Porush, I invited.
What year was that?
1990.
Can I ask you?
I think it was 1990 or 91. 1990, I think.
Did your experiences, firstly, do you think about your experiences during the Holocaust?
Did I think?
Do you think about those times?
Well, from time to time I have nightmares. Unfortunate as it is, on one occasion, when I lived when I was at Turek Shul, and I rented a flat in Millsman Street, and Daniel was sleeping in the one-bedroom place that I had there. We had 2 beds, so that on Shabbos and Yom Tov we can be there and don't have to walk, etc. At any rate, on one occasion, poor kid, he got so frightened. I was being chased by the Nazis, and I fell out of bed with a big thud. I did not know where I was.
Did your experiences affect your religious beliefs in any way?
Straight after the war, in 1945, 46, 45 mostly, I didn't want to have to do anything with religion. Just nothing. I didn't want to do anything, didn't observe anything, didn't care about anything. I was b'regesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But in 45 already, and on Tisha B'Av in 46, I went into the synagogue telling myself that it is a national day of mourning, And the place of every Jew is to be there, because it's a day of national mourning. It happened to be Tisha B'Av, the yahrzeit of my mother. And believe it or not, I found myself saying the Kaddish. From then on, there was a different story. Slowly and slowly, not immediately, I came back.
To what do you attribute your survival? Have you ever thought about that?
Yes. I don't know if you know that phrase, Hashgacha Pratit or Hashgacha Pratis, which means divine providence. I cannot but think, for instance, the episode I told you about Dr. Kuhn. If I had not at that very moment, that afternoon, would not have found him, found out who he was and what he did for me, I don't think I would be here. Most likely, I would have been caught by the Nazis. It was in November of 1944. Rabbi Shalom, it was the worst time of world Jewry, especially in Hungary. A month later, approximately, was the ghetto built in Budapest. That was not very far from the ghetto area where this happened. Just the main street, the main road, a few minutes away from there. Or, for instance, when the Russian soldiers let me pass through between the German and the Russian lines, the machine guns were facing one another, and I walked across. Or when I was shot at, and I did not die. It did not hit me. Or when, on many occasions, when I was stripped of my pant. Can you imagine a 16-year-old boy in a hostile country in the worst time of the period? They would have killed me without any hesitation. They would have been doing it with glee. I cannot put it down to anything else except divine providence, but why should I deserve to have been surviving? I think perhaps I have a responsibility and a sort of a mission. I must see to it that if not I, but Judaism survives. And the world needs Judaism, because you could see what is happening in this big world. Strife, hunger, exploitation, rape, moral decay, no standards, no trust, no loyalty, no nothing. And Judaism can give so much to this world. And I am able to do something about it, something little. Every little bit helps. I very fervently hope that soon one day there will be a world that realizes this. And my people will not be again the victims of this diabolical hatred against us. They would only realize how much Judaism can contribute to the welfare of the whole of the world. Rwanda, the eyeballs, Pakistan, everywhere. Suicide bombing, things like that. This is a very bad reflection of hell. Not a world that should live in peace and harmony. There is room for everyone. There should be food for everyone. Should be shelter for everyone. Should be care, education, health, vitality, building, construction. Everything could come if there would be no hatred. Do you have an idea how many billions and billions and trillions of dollars are being spent on destruction? If only a part of it would be spent on the welfare of human beings, to try and discover cures for disease, to prevent disasters, natural disasters. If they would spend money on that, if they would care about the environment, about the rivers, about there are so many unemployed people. I just heard on the radio recently there are 4 million plus unemployed in Germany. There are unemployed here in Australia. If they would be put to constructive work, building houses for people who have no houses, schools, bridges, roads, infrastructure, etc., railways, whatever, train people to be able to live like mentioned, like human beings, not in poverty line. How could a country like Australia that has so much natural resources, so few people, to have the picture of children that go to bed hungry in Australia? Not on the other planet, but here in Australia. And things like that. It's unthinkable.
Rabbi, do you have anything to add?
Only I wish that those who will see this interview will remember what I just said now.
Thank you.
Sitting on my right is my younger son, Daniel Baruch Shimon, Daniel Bruce Mandel. He was born in 1964 on the 25th of May. I'm very proud of him. He's a very wonderful son. And I was there at the time of his birth. He was a cesarean birth. It was a cesarean birth in King George V Hospital in Sydney. He grew up. We brought him home from hospital to Albion Road in Stratfield. That's where I was at that time the minister. And we left in 1960, was it 1966? We left and we went to Kujir and the Clovelly Hebrew congregation, and from there to the Great Synagogue. And in 1970, I went to Jerusalem. He followed in December with his mother and brother. And we came back to Australia in 1971, sorry. And he attended school in Auckland, in Moriah College first, and then in Auckland. And then he did very well at matriculation, and he got out of a possible 500, he got 473, I believe, if I remember correctly. And he came in the upper 2 percentile of the state. And he went, after his matriculation, he went to Israel. He was there at the Jerusalem Torah College for a while, and then he went for a year to Beit El Yeshiva. And when he returned, he came back, and he was for a month approximately in Sydney with his mother. And then he came down to Melbourne and stayed with me and started his university course.
Can I ask, Daniel, did your father speak to you as you were growing up of his experiences during the war?
Yes, he did. I have to correct two things there. Firstly, I can't believe you told anybody that my middle name is Bruce. No.
What is it?
It is.
Oh, right.
It is. The rest of the record can stand. Yes, Dad did tell me about the Holocaust from time to time, from a fairly early age too. I can remember when we were living in Sydney in Elizabeth Bay, and I was between about the age of 3 and 6 when we lived there. I remember the odd story here and there, the odd anecdote, the portraits of the grandparents in my father's study.
Did he speak to you about his parents?
Yes, and I knew from an early age that he had lost his mother very young when he was 4. I actually do recall one occasion where he was telling me this, and I had mentioned the fact, almost as trying to console him and say, well, you still had your father. I said, yes, but he was taken away by the Nazis, and this is shocking. This was, not just one parent, but 2 parents, and I was very sort of sensitized to the issue ever since. So from an early age, I would hear things from time to time, which would come up in conversation, as I say, different anecdotes. But didn't get a systematic presentation until I was about 15 when I was writing an essay on it for high school. So that's when I got, as I say, a systematic picture of what happened.
Do you think, have you put any thought to the fact that how his experiences as a relatively young child, as an adolescent, affected him in his later life as a result of what happened?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that it would have had an effect. I think it's a thing you would notice, I don't know, as the years have passed, the thing that stands out for me is the fact, something that he's referred to, that he will have on occasion recurrent nightmares and recollections about it. Films about the war, not necessarily even the Holocaust, just that sort of, which have the grit of a time and place, will trigger recollections, etc. So it's very clearly a part of living memory. That's very obvious to me.
What's it like growing up as the son of a rabbi?
Hard.
Why?
It's, well, I don't know,